In the world of firearms, suppression has always been a challenge. Most suppressed weapons rely on a detachable silencer, a long cylinder fixed to the muzzle, only reducing noise under the right conditions and often affecting the weapon's balance. But during the Cold War, the Soviet Union decided to do something radically different. Instead of putting a suppressor on a gun, they built a gun around the suppressor. A weapon designed from the ground up to be silent, discreet, and deadly at close range. The result was unlike anything NATO had at the time. It was strange, clever, and undeniably effective. The AS Val. To understand why the AS Val existed, you have to understand the world it was born into. By the 1980s, the Soviet Union was fighting as shadow war intelligence agencies, special operations units, and covert forces needed weapons that could eliminate threats quietly without sacrificing firepower. Silenced pistols existed, but they lacked stopping power. Silenced submachine guns existed, but they struggled with armor and range. The Soviets needed something with the reach of an assault rifle, the silence of a suppressed SMG, and the portability of a carbine. Western designers debated theoretical solutions. The Soviets simply built one. The AS Val didn't look like a conventional rifle. Its suppressor wasn't an accessory, it was the core of the system. The entire front half of the gun was essentially a massive, integrated suppressor wrapped around a short barrel instead of screwing on or off. It was permanent. This created a signature unlike anything NATO expected. When the Val fired, the sound was reduced to a low mechanical clap. Not silent, but shockingly quiet for a rifle firing heavy armor-piercing rounds. The key was the ammunition. The AS Val used 9x39mm subsonic rounds designed specifically for suppressed weapons. These weren't ordinary bullets. They were large, heavy projectiles traveling below the speed of sound, removing the supersonic crack that normally gives away a rifle shot. When fired through the Val's integrated suppressor, they delivered substantial energy while staying extremely discreet. In the hands of Soviet special forces, the weapon was ideal for ambushes, assassinations, and operations requiring absolute surprise. But the design wasn't just about stealth. The Val had surprising firepower. The 9x39mm round, especially in the armor-piercing variants, could defeat body armor and helmets that would stop 5.56 or 9mm rounds. It could penetrate steel plates, equipment, and barriers in close-quarters combat. This made the weapon far deadlier than its soft report suggested. NATO analysts were taken aback. Western suppressed weapons focused on concealment. The Val focused on killing power, quietly. Because the suppressor was integrated, the recoil impulse and flash signature were also reduced. Operators could fire accurately in low light without being blinded by muzzle flash. There were no suppressor alignment issues, no risk of a poorly mounted device causing catastrophic failure. Everything about the system was engineered to function as a unified whole, and unlike many Western suppressed rifles of the era, which overheated rapidly, the Val could fire bursts without instantly burning out its suppressor. It was rugged, reliable, and built with the same brutal simplicity found in many Soviet designs. The AS Val entered service in the late 1980s with Soviet Spetsnaz, KGB units, and elite security forces. It was perfect for urban combat, clandestine operations, and counter-terror missions. During conflicts in Chechnya and the Caucasus, it became a favorite of Russian special forces. Fighters who encountered it often described the eerie experience of being attacked by an almost invisible gun. They would hear the mechanical clicking of the action more than the shots themselves, followed by rounds punching through walls, vehicles, and armor. It wasn't a long-range weapon. It wasn't a battlefield rifle. It was a specialist tool, devastating in the role it was made for. And as the Soviet Union collapsed, the weapon didn't fade. Instead, it spread. Russia manufactured variants, including the VSS Vintores, a sniper-styled version with the same internal mechanics. The Val and Vintores formed a family of integrally suppressed rifles, now iconic amongst special operations communities. While NATO countries relied heavily on external suppressors that could malfunction, loosen, or break, the Val remained a single, purpose-built unit. Despite its effectiveness, the AS Val had limitations. Its magazines were small, 20 rounds by default, with limited 10-round and rare 30-round versions. It wasn't designed for sustained firefights. The 9x39mm ammunition was specialized and expensive, making it impractical for widespread issue. And because the weapon was tied so closely to its suppressor, it couldn't be reconfigured into a louder, longer-range variant. It was designed to be one thing, a quiet, armor-piercing, close-range killer, and it excelled at exactly that. What makes the AS Val fascinating is not just its function, but its philosophy. Western rifles tended to prioritize adaptability. The Soviets prioritized purpose. They didn't want a jack-of-all-trades system that could do everything. They wanted a perfect tool for a specific mission. And that mindset created one of the most effective, integrally suppressed rifles ever made. Even today, special forces around the world use weapons inspired by the Val's concept. Integrally suppressed systems have become far more common, especially for close-quarters operations. Yet none have captured the same cult reputation. The AS Val is still considered one of the cleanest examples of purpose-built stealth lethality. Modern versions feature rails, improved ergonomics, and refined ammunition, but the heart of the design remains unchanged. It still uses heavy subsonic rounds. It still fires quietly enough to confuse enemies. And it still carries the same sinister efficiency that made it infamous during the late Cold War. In many ways, the Val embodies the nature of covert warfare. It doesn't roar. It doesn't intimidate through noise or spectacle. It works in the shadows, striking without warning and disappearing before the enemy knows what happened. It represents the side of military history that rarely makes it into public view. The silent battles fought by unseen soldiers using weapons designed not for fear, but for precision and surprise. The AS Val was never meant to be a mainstream assault rifle. It was built for a hidden war that most people never saw. But it remains one of Russia's most distinctive and effective specialist firearms, a weapon that proved silence could be just as deadly as sound.